On January 28, 2016, DJ Pendejo tweeted at Gina Rodriguez, "Please help a struggling Latina sister who can't afford to pay her tuition." And Gina quote tweeted her and said, "Have you looked into the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? There are a few places to look for help. Mama, let's research." This is the Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. An important thing that any celebrity who is on the internet needs to know is sometimes you just don't respond. And if you do respond, you don't respond like this. Because ultimately, I feel like Gina's response here is the problem. A lot of people are going to say the problem is that she didn't help this woman with her tuition, and I understand that, but I do think it's reasonable to be like, hey, a celebrity can't help every single person who comes into their mentions asking for money. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't help some people, and that doesn't mean that they shouldn't help people behind the scenes, but I'm not going to crucify her for not giving away money to a random person who said, hey, can I have money for my tuition? But what you do then is just ignore it, because you don't want to draw attention to the fact that you're not helping someone who's asking for help. And you definitely don't give like a cheerily condescending response about how they're not trying to find a scholarship hard enough. And above all else, you don't say the phrase, "Mama, let's research." Because I feel like if she didn't use those words, this tweet would not have the same staying power. I think some people would remember like, hey, it was kind of weird when Gina Rodriguez was rude to that lady who asked for help with tuition and instead directed her to scholarship funds, but it wouldn't become a meme. And to be clear, it has become a meme. Just a few months ago, Sophia Benoit tweeted, "I say Mama, let's research so often, and no one in the real world connects with it. The peak of Twitter was so fleeting." Don't I know it, Sophia? And when there was a prompt that asked for something that's forever funny no matter how many times it's repeated, Alex Gonzalez, I assume neither the shortstop for the Chicago Cubs in the early 2000s or the shortstop for the Florida Marlins in the early 2000s, said, "The phrase "Mama, let's research" is never not funny." But let's back up. Who is Gina Rodriguez? Gina Rodriguez is an actress who got her big break in 2014 with the CW series Jane the Virgin. Since then, she's been in some TV shows, some movies, nothing huge, but she's been around. And what I want to note is that this tweet was tweeted just a day after the 9th episode of season 2 of Jane the Virgin. I'm not noting that because that episode is special in any way. I've never watched the show, maybe it is. But I do just want to point out that she was pretty early in her career when she was tweeting this. Not that I want to absolve her of anything, but I think people really overestimate how much money people who are on TV have. Like, this was her first big job, and the way that TV contracts are, the fact that she was a season and a half into a show on CW, that really doesn't mean she has that much money. She obviously could have helped this woman with her scholarship, and it would not have been that much sweat off her back. But I do think people think that any person who's on TV could just, like, help 1,000 people go to college, and it would be no big deal. I think since the SAG strike, people have forgotten that the industry is awful, and just because someone is on your TV or your movie screen, that doesn't mean that they have a lot of money. Once again, I don't think that this is the focal point of what's going on here, but it's a pet peeve, so I had to talk about it. So, when I was doing research for this, I saw a thing come up twice that I'm like, surely this can't be true. Because I had seen this tweet referenced a bunch, I had seen the original, it's been on my spreadsheet basically since I started keeping track of tweets for the show, but what multiple people pointed out, including Miss Cuticle, is at the time she tweeted it, Gina Rodriguez was on the board of directors of the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. So she's just throwing it out like, have you heard of the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? Without bringing up the fact that she's on the board for it. Like, I'm not saying that she needs to pull strings to make sure that DJ Pendejo gets a scholarship from the fund, because we have no idea. DJ Pendejo could have awful grades. But she doesn't even volunteer like, hey, have you considered looking into the scholarship fund that I'm a part of? She just is looking around like, oh, a scholarship fund you need. What about the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? Just a random one that I pulled out of thin air. That's nuts. It's nuts that that's the case. Like, seriously, I don't think anyone would have minded that Gina Rodriguez did not open her wallet personally to give money to DJ Pendejo if she had said, hey, just letting you know that I'm actually on the board of this great scholarship fund and we're looking for applicants like you, so I can point you in the right direction and hopefully we can help you out with the fund. That would have avoided all of this, including the phrase, "Mama, let's research." Why does she need to research? You're on a scholarship fund. You can just point her in your own direction. And that's the thing about Gina Rodriguez. She is problematic. And I'm using that word not to obfuscate anything specific, because there are specific things. She's had a long history of, saying the wrong thing when it comes to black people, particularly black women. She got in hot water for using the N-word in videos, and other stuff that is not really my place to talk about. And while I don't think that that's 100% related to what's going on here, she just very much has an air of like, what's her deal? Like, I can't articulate it super well, but this tweet just fits in so perfectly with Gina Rodriguez's public persona. Like, it's not surprising at all to me that she didn't realize how tone-deaf this sounds. And it pains me to say this as a fellow graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, but like, this is pretty par for the course for someone who went to art school at NYU. NYU produces a lot of very, very, very successful artists, and it also produces a lot of tone-deaf people, often the same people. Because based on her background, I imagine that Gina Rodriguez went to NYU on a big scholarship, because she came from a working-class background, and NYU is ludicrously expensive, and so I can kind of understand why she's like, yeah, just get a scholarship. But like, Come on, Gina. It doesn't work like that. We don't have a college affordability crisis because people didn't look hard enough for scholarships. A thing I did find incredibly funny, though, when I was looking through quote tweets of this, is that Carlos says, the funny thing about this tweet is that I did research it and got accepted as one of their scholars like 2 years ago. So apparently it does do good work. So shouts to the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. If you are a Hispanic person looking to pay for college, maybe you should look into it. Or should I say, mama, let's research. Which, by the way, if you want to buy a sticker of Gina Rodriguez holding up an iPad where someone has photoshopped the phrase mama, let's research onto it, you can buy that. In some ways, Mama Let's Research or Mama Let's Research Energy is a shorthand for describing a tone-deaf response to someone having a serious problem. Like a really tragic example I saw is this woman, Nina, said that if she died, laid her body on the steps of Oscar Health because they canceled a vital procedure a day before it happened. And instead of giving her any assistance, they said, check out TikTok videos on how to pay hospital bills instead. Melissa responded to this with, Mama Let's Research Energy. Matthew Rodriguez really painted Gina Rodriguez in a bad light in this fictional example where he imagines Mary, of the Bible, saying, there's no room at the inn. Where will I have my baby? With Gina Rodriguez saying, Mama, let's research. But probably the most common way this is referenced is to respond to someone who's asking for money or needs money in a condescending fashion to show that you really don't care. Like just yesterday when this guy Mom's World said, I'm being sued, I need some money. But Nita Vaneta said, have you looked into the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? There are a few places to look for help. Mama, let's research. When there was a headline about the US government running out of money if we didn't raise the debt ceiling, Raquel said, have you looked into the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? There are a few places to look for help. Mama, let's research. And this guy Will thought he was making a big funny haha when Film Updates posted that Avatar: The Way of Water had to make over $1 billion at the box office to break even. Will said, have you looked into the Avatar Scholarship Fund? There are a few places to look for help, Mama, let's research. Of course, Will was proven wrong, because Avatar: The Way of Water easily cleared $2 billion. Sorry, bozo, that's what you get for doubting Big Jim. And the silliest example I found is when Twitter CEO, I think that's her title, who knows, Linda Yaccarino posted a video talking about something, and in the video she was wearing 2 necklaces. One of them said Mama, and the other one said free speech. Comedian Blair Erskine posted a screenshot that just said Mama free speech, and then she posted an edited version of Gina Rodriguez's tweet that said, have you looked into the Hispanic Scholarship Fund? There are a few places to look for help. Mama, let's free speech. I just love that people's brains, Blair especially, work that way, that she saw Mama and free speech and was like, you know what? I gotta bring this back to the Gina Rodriguez tweet. Normally I like to wrap up episodes where someone says a stupid tweet with some lesson of how to avoid doing that stupid tweet, but the lessons are all pretty obvious. Like, just don't be condescending to someone who asks for money. If you're a famous person on a trip, don't respond to people in public who ask for money. And don't call strangers Mama if you can help it. Oh, and disclose if you are on the board of the scholarship fund you're recommending. Seriously, I don't know if I'll ever get over that wrinkle. In fact, I don't know how I went this long without knowing it. Follow me for a tweet every day. Consider subscribing at patreon.com/museum of Twitter, where you get the weekly Museum of Not Twitter, where I talk about things that's big in the internet that not start on Twitter. And you can also vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays.